Well, hello there. I'm Ray Andrewson. I'm Executive Director of the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce, but I'm not Pete Mezzetti. Tonight, our guest is the host of this show, Pete Mezzetti. We're going to learn a little bit about how this all started years ago when Pete came to the airwaves and hosted this program. All the guests and figures that he's had an opportunity to interview over time, his inspiration in getting to know Pete. He usually asks the questions. I'm going to ask a few of the questions tonight. So without further ado, let's go right to the guest of his own show. I don't think I've ever said that.
No.
Pete Mezzetti, welcome to your own show,
well,
Pete.
Thank you, Ray. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. It's so good to be with you.
Good to be with you, too.
I know you have a loyal following. We also have a studio audience with us here tonight, too, to be part of this program.
Absolutely.
To witness your 16 years of doing this.
Absolutely.
So let's go back here.
All right.
And talk about you, because I think our viewers really need to know the beginning, the origin.
All right.
Talk about the 7 days, the first 7 days.
The first 7.
You rested on the 7th day of broadcasting.
Yes.
But it was all created at one time. So back, was it 2005, you started this program?
Right. When the program first started in 2005, the way that the program started is when public access, when it was run by Comcast out of Clinton, which was the building and the facilities were downtown Clinton, right on Main Street. And when everything happened, I walked into the public access area to actually drop off my cable bill, rang the doorbell. The public access coordinator at the time came out. I dropped off my bill. He says to me, "Hey, do you realize that the town of Clinton doesn't have a public access show?" I said, "Okay, that's very interesting." Dropped off my bill, went on my way to the town hall for a meeting. Walked into the first selectman's office where the meeting was. The first selectman, who was Willie Fritz at the time, who his mom was a state representative from Wallingford for the longest time until she passed away recently, a couple years ago. Yeah. And I said to Willie, "Hey, do you realize that the town of Clinton does not have a public access show?" He walks around his desk, shakes my hand, and says, "Congratulations, it's yours." And he was actually, the first episode of the show, he was actually my guest because we actually talked, it was right around budget season. So he came on and we talked about the show. It actually, when it first began, it was not the Pete Mezzetti show. It was actually the Peter Mezzetti show.
Well, back then we used to wear jackets and ties.
Absolutely.
More formal, but now you're more relaxed.
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
So why did you change from Peter to Pete?
I don't know. It was just time for a change. I actually believe I changed it from Peter to Pete when I came in with Valley Shore Community Television.
Oh, interesting. Well, only my mother got to call me Raymond, so that's why I'm Ray. Yeah, I'd stick with that. It's
absolutely.
For broadcasting anyway. So back in those days, 2005 in the beginning, and you're starting your program, you have to get into a groove. You have to sort of get your own interviewing style and get to know the community. And you know Clinton very well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what was it like for you in the first year? You probably weren't in a rhythm yet. You had to develop that.
Absolutely. When it was the first year was obviously getting out in the community, meeting people, talking to people, and then pitching the idea of my show. And then once we got the rapport going on, it actually wasn't that hard to start booking guests, because what people don't know is, even to this day, I actually do all my bookings myself.
Yes.
I find my guests, I do my follow-ups, I book everything, and I basically all the production, not the production side of things, but all like the booking side of things, as far as that goes, that's all done by me.
And the guests you have booked, my word, you've had senators, you've had governors, you've had lieutenant governors, you have people from the nonprofit world, the arts, so on and so forth. How do you mix it up? Because you do have quite a varied cast of guests that sit here in the studio with you.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I try to figure out what is going on, because if you're involved with a nonprofit organization and you want to be on with me and you have an event or a fundraiser, that takes the precedence of my scheduling. I try to, if you're involved with a nonprofit or working with a nonprofit talking about an event, what I do is I book you first. Any of the other shows can basically be a filler show as needed.
Yeah. Well, and of course you have to do the research and
absolutely.
homework on the events that are
absolutely.
coming up. Yeah. So I recall when you started out, you were very involved with some of the things in the town of Clinton. Now you, of course, expanded with this cable system, and this program has become wider and disseminated to other places where people can watch it.
Absolutely.
Here in South Central Connecticut, Middlesex County, and parts of New Haven County.
Right.
But you were involved with something called a Bluefish Festival, which
I was.
recall. And I recall that, back in the day, and I'm sure our viewers will remember going out to Race Rock or Long Island Sound, and you could load up on bluefish. I mean, big bluefish.
Absolutely.
30, 40 years ago. And there aren't as many bluefish to go catch, but you had a big festival that you were involved in.
We did. I was actually on the committee a bunch of years ago for when they had the Bluefish Festival in Clinton, and I've actually, that the festival, unfortunately, is no longer. Because they just didn't want to.
The bluefish got smoked.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Then it went kaput. Well, that's too bad. Because that was a fun festival.
I know.
At the time. But everything, I think, has a time and season, and other events have started to come up. So let's talk about some of the guests that you've had.
Sure.
I don't want to say your favorites or your least favorites, but over time, you had to talk, just for example, to Senator Blumenthal.
Right.
And he's very much present in Connecticut. I think he has that reputation of being at a lot of events and showing up. So he was a person who was easier to book than, say, Senator Murphy or others.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and the same thing at the state level up in Hartford, when you're trying to get lawmakers, I'm sure you have others that are easier to schedule than some of the others.
Absolutely. Like Senator Paul Farmica, who's the state senator from the local area. He's always a good guest on with me. I actually had a while back. We did this show through Zoom. I had the state epidemiologist on with me, Dr. Matthew Carter, and we talked about the virus for a half hour. I was actually a really
very timely,
very good. It was actually a very time sensitive show, and it came out very, very nicely. I was very impressed.
Yeah. Well, I think the information you're providing is remarkable. I mean, you think of all the variety, and you start adding up how many people you've interviewed and how many shows you've done over time. And this is such an important medium, cable access television and local television. And increasingly, we're finding out, I just read an article about newspapers, for example, and how localism is really being dripped, sort of like drip, 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 death by 1,000 paper cuts, if you will.
Exactly.
The local newspapers, the weeklies, are all going away in many cases. And there is patch.com and some other local media. But this is the kind of programming that ties the community together.
Absolutely. This is a very important part of getting out and reaching out to your community, just because it is local public access TV. Yeah,
and underlying the local aspect of it too.
Absolutely.
So one thing that I'm always struck by, I should say, it is describing what I like about the state of Connecticut.
All right.
Because we've sort of been down on ourselves. We had some, jobs issues, financial issues, state budget issues in the last 10, 15, 20 years. Right. And I work, at a Chamber of Commerce, promoting business, and we hear it a lot that the state doesn't have a reputation as being as business friendly as others. So what is it about being here? And I like the diversity and the natural beauty, the historic character of this area. But Middlesex County and this part of the shoreline, to me in particular, is really a beautiful part of the state.
Absolutely. It's actually a really nice part of the state, especially now, because you're hitting fall and the leaves are changing and it's sort of quieted down from the summer. And all the summer people have gone back to wherever they've come from. It's a lot quieter on the shoreline as compared to the summertime, where it's basically hustle and bustle, and it's really hard to get around because there's a lot of the population of the area has grown substantially because of the summer.
Well, in terms of recreating, what we have here, one of the assets we have is the natural landscape.
Right.
And others are sort of struck by they come from other parts of the East Coast,
Yep.
how flat the land is for several miles going on there. No hills. But
No, of
Connecticut,
course.
you hit hills pretty quickly, East Rock, West Rock, and New Haven.
Right.
But I was hiking out at Chatfield Hollow Blue Trail. A long hike. We took about a 7-8 mile hike.
All right.
A lot of rock outcroppings, really lovely by the lakes that are right off of Route 80, very close to the studio. Knowing that we can get right here to the shoreline,
Right.
and we could almost throw a rock and hit Long Island Sound from this studio.
Right.
We're so close down here by water's edge.
Right.
It is really beautiful.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit more about not only what you've done over the last 16 years, Peter, but some of the help. You've had people behind the scenes who have really made your program work.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the crew behind the scenes is the best. Everybody, and I'm not going to mention names because I'm going to forget somebody, because I normally do that, and then you say, "Oh, you forgot me, you forgot me, you forgot me," and no, I don't want to. I really don't want to just start throwing names, but everybody is super supportive. Even when I first came to Valley Shore, Chris Morgan, who's the public access coordinator here, is awesome to work with. Very friendly. Very, if you need a hand doing something, he'll take time to basically walk you through it and tell you, "Nah, see, no, you need to do this. No, you got to do this. Yeah, no, yeah, this is going to work. This isn't going to work." He's very, very hands-on, but he's he's a very knowledgeable part.
Well, you've got a combination of professional and volunteers. So we'll talk about that. We're going to just pause, take a little bit of a break right here. I'm not Pete Mezzetti. He is. I'm hosting the Pete Mezzetti Show as his fill-in to interview Pete. So we get to know a little bit of his 16 years of hosting his very own Pete Mezzetti Show. We'll be right back.
Valley Shore Community Television is constantly adapting to the demands of our viewers. Busy schedules are making it hard for viewers to watch shows when they air.
Television has changed dramatically. We don't have to be appointment viewers or listeners anymore.
No.
We can do this in real time.
VSC TV has made it easy to watch all our locally produced content online and when you want it. Visit vsctv.com and click on the Watch Online tab to watch live, or visit our local show playlist to easily navigate your favorite shows anywhere, anytime, and on any device.
The way to this world is for free. Freedom from the way to this.
VSC TV is your local Connecticut Mid-Shore Valley digital connection.
And welcome back. It's the Pete Mezzetti Show, but not with Pete Mezzetti. I'm Ray Andrews, and I'm Executive Director of the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce. Pete Mezzetti is his own guest today. So I guess it was easy to book this program as finding your guest, wasn't it?
It was pretty easy for trying to find myself.
Yeah, that's true. Did the email bounce back?
No.
Okay.
No, it went right through.
That's great. Well, let's talk about all the volunteers.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we have some nice folks in our audience
Oh,
watching here
absolutely.
tonight, too.
Absolutely.
But you have professional and volunteer opportunities here.
Yes. Oh,
at Valley
absolutely.
Shore Television. So these
Absolutely.
volunteers, they come in, they learn, they're specialists, and they really make it happen, don't they?
Absolutely. Oh, they absolutely make it happen, and they are actually the best. And even what people don't realize is I'm actually a volunteer myself. I do not make a nickel doing my show. I am volunteer. Any expense or any expense I incur comes out of my own pocket. We are all a volunteer group, and that's one of the things that makes public access the way it is. We're all volunteer. We don't, behind the scenes, we don't get paid. But people ask me, okay, if you don't get paid and you do your show, then why do you do your show? Simple. I love what I'm doing. It's been a great 16 years.
Yeah, it shows. You have an infectious enthusiasm for this.
Absolutely.
I think people who've been on the guests, I know many of your guests over the years, they
Right.
really enjoyed the experience being here with you.
Even you.
Even I. even the host of the Pete Mezzetti Show tonight, the fill-in host.
That's right.
And in terms of volunteer, if you add up all the hours, have you done that? Have you done the calculation and figured out how many hours of programming you provided these communities?
No, I haven't. But the good thing is, I am roughly, give or take, over 450 shows.
So you add that up times half hour or 27 minutes,
Yeah.
which is the exact amount of time that you're on.
Exactly.
That's a lot, but that doesn't even include all the behind-the-scenes things you do
No.
to make the show happen.
No, of course not.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about you, because
boy.
you come from a family that knows how to make good food,
Oh, absolutely.
and I think some folks don't even know that about you.
No. Because I actually was not born in Connecticut. I was born in Florida. My mom and dad went down to Florida with my brother, my sister, and the dog. Drove down to Florida. My dad actually got a job in Florida. And so they basically came back after a couple of years with mom, dad, the dog, my brother, my sister, and me. But what people don't realize is, and I don't even think you know this, when I was born prematurely. I weighed 1.5 pounds when I was born. I actually had, my brother and I, we both had twins. And they didn't expect my brother and I to survive. They expected the twins to survive. They basically, after I was born, they looked at my parents, because I was born prematurely, said to my mom and dad, your son, because he was born prematurely, is going to be a vegetable the rest of his life. He's not going to be able to walk. He's not going to be able to talk. He's not going to be able to communicate with anybody. He's basically going to be a vegetable. Not bad, huh?
Here you are.
I was going to say.
And that buoyance and confidence
Absolutely.
that sort of flows from you is a
Absolutely.
result of overcoming those obstacles.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So your cheerfulness.
Yes.
His smile. So what keeps you up? What makes you so upbeat? You have a good sense of humor?
I've got
a good outlook on life?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
As you and I know.
That's right.
Off camera.
That's right.
We've got a great sense of humor, and so do you. So do you. No, it's all about the way you look at life. Yes, you can look at the glass half full. You can look at the glass half empty. It's just the way you look at life and you look at things.
So you've received some inspiration, I'm sure, from other community members over the years.
Oh, yeah.
Your own family, but also
Oh yeah.
the people you've worked with, teachers,
Oh yeah.
people here on the shoreline. So what are the kinds of people that have been influential in your life?
Basically, everybody in the community, my family, my friends, and just the whole core of my support group of everybody around me.
And of course, you've continued to do this. You've been doing this for 16 years.
Right.
And 16 more years?
A while.
We'll see.
While.
Yeah, you'll have to sign the contract. I know Chris Morgan can be tough.
Oh, absolutely.
He's quite the negotiator.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's fun tonight. We have an audience
Yeah.
that have come in and joined us here.
That's
Let's
right.
Say hello, everybody.
Yeah. Hi,
right.
guys.
They're not applauding. We're
Right, that's okay.
I'm trying to create some background noise.
That-
So give Pete a round of applause here for all the years he's done.
Thank you.
Thanks. And that kind of appreciation, too.
Absolutely.
The media, in some cases, as you know, a lot of talk shows, cable news networks, and
Yeah,
other
yeah.
things that we watch,
Sure.
can be a little rough these days, a little tough, sort of an angry element to our culture.
Right.
And there's also a lot of evidence that people don't identify with their communities. They don't participate, they volunteer less.
Right.
I'm going to surmise that you can tell your audience that that's why you're happy, because you're volunteering and you're engaged in your community.
Absolutely.
And you're not following all this angry media out there.
No, absolutely not. And that's the big thing, is where you want to get involved with your community. That's the biggest thing that can keep you going, especially doing your show like this. Yes, you want to get out into the community. Every once in a while, people will say, "Hey, would you mind stopping by an event and saying hello?" Sometimes every once in a while, I've got to decline the invitation because I have something else going on. But every once in a while, I'll stop by at an event and people will say, "Wow, you are here." I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "This is where the show first started." So I'm a firm believer of giving back to the community.
So let me take you out of Clinton and
Yes.
talk about Westbrook and Old Saybrook and
All right.
Haddam and Clinton to the north you go to Killingworth. If you are identified with one town, you tend to think of yourself as being in that town, in a community. But in a way, if you're in a region, you're still part of a community.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So where are some of the friendships that you formed over the southern part of Middlesex County? I mean, this program is heard and
Right.
and viewed on a lot of cable networks now. So
Absolutely.
you're not just in the town of Clinton.
No.
You're part of the region. So where is it now? Where are you seen?
Pete Mezzetti is seen all over the place. And as you know, Pete Mezzetti is seen on the Comcast franchise in Middletown. Pete Mezzetti is actually seen wherever you find your local favorite podcast, for Apple or wherever you find your favorite podcast. And also, Pete Mezzetti also does a community radio show with WNHH Radio in New Haven.
Yes.
They air the audio version of the Pete Mezzetti show every other Wednesday on WNHH, which is actually a community-run nonprofit radio station in New Haven, which is run by a gentleman by the name of Paul Bass. Do you know Paul?
Yes, I do.
I was going to say Paul Bass, which is with the New Haven Independent, but his station manager, Harry Droz, is the absolute best to work with. Harry keeps me in check whenever Pete Mezzetti gets a little unraveled and has to. Harry will have no problem throwing Pete Mezzetti in check.
Well, the New Haven Independent is community journalism.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's online.
Absolutely.
And unless you see a newspaper delivery person throw a laptop in your driveway,
Yeah,
which is
right.
the only, or a smartphone. I
Right.
mean, the way to get it is online. It's digital.
Absolutely.
And the great thing about the radio station is you also have other community broadcasters who
Absolutely.
are involved.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Oh,
so
yeah.
you get a flavor of the city of New Haven, and also some of the regional programming, like yourself.
Yeah.
Is
Paul's
true.
a good guy.
So if I were coming here as a volunteer,
Yes.
or our studio audience here tonight, you're Professor Mezzetti at the moment.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's teach the class, but let's hold court here with our guests and
All right.
our viewers, and tell them what they should know about community programming and what you've learned over 16 years.
I've actually learned a lot. There is a lot to learn, but what I would honestly tell you is, if you want to learn, get involved.
Yeah.
Basically, call your local whatever town you live in. You can Google or search engine if you have a local public access studio in the local area. What I would tell you to do is Google it, call them, get as much information you can from them, and then get involved. Because yes, it's a lot of work, but it's also a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I love what I'm doing.
Absolutely, a lot of fun in the studio, and it's a friendly environment.
Absolutely.
too. Yeah. So it's interesting to think back on the 16 years and the time you went into the first selectman's office in Clinton in 2005.
Yeah, right.
And it's the law of unintended consequences. And we've touched on a couple of themes tonight about the surprises in life.
Yeah.
And I think just a year and a half ago, we didn't expect COVID.
Nope.
And a pandemic, and that has dramatically changed how we do things.
Right.
With our masks on when we're not on a set like this.
Right.
And local restaurants, local small businesses, and some of the community members are been struggling a little bit
Right.
in these days. So do you have any words of advice to the people who are out there struggling during COVID?
Do the best you can. Do the best you can, because as you and I have talked off camera, it is the hardest thing during COVID is trying to do a public access show from home, because you get to do it through Zoom, through Skype, through your favorite networking platform, and the product looks okay, but it's not as much fun as being in studio, because if you do it through the local platform, you freeze, your guest freezes, the feed freezes, and it's like, okay, now what? And then you got to wait for the feed to come back up. And
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
no, absolutely not.
So we just got a couple seconds left to go here on your own show.
right.
So if people want to be a guest, they want to engage with you,
Yeah.
how do they do that, Pete?
Easiest way to get in touch with me is go to www.petemezzetti.com. All the contact information is on the website.
Right on the website for Pete Mezzetti. Well, Pete, thanks for being a guest on your own show.
Thanks, Ray.
It's an unusual experience when you have something like this, but we're pretty excited about it. So Pete Mezzetti, the Pete Mezzetti Show, congratulations. 16 years you've been doing this, Pete.
Thanks, Ray.
And we hope that we get many, many more.
You got it.
I'm Ray Andrews. I'm Executive Director of the Quinnipiac Chamber of Commerce, hosting and grateful to be here with Pete Mezzetti. Thank you very much for watching.